Okay, good afternoon, everyone, colleagues. I'm told I can start this presentation. My name is Andrei Robachevsky, and I hope you can hear me, and you can also see the slides on the screen. I'm very glad to be able to present here. Unfortunately, I can't be in sunny Casablanca. Rather, I'm presenting from rainy Amsterdam, but that's the power of the internet, right? That allows us to connect even remotely. I work for the Internet Society, and my main area of work is security, internet security, and that's the main theme of my presentation as well. So I'd like to talk to you about security, internet security to be precise. The whole theme is very complex. Just look at how many terms people use when they describe these issues. Without offering a solution to these issues, and there is no real silver bullet, as we know, I'd like to present an approach, a framework that can help this search for solutions, building blocks, and move the debate further. This framework was developed and introduced earlier this year by the Internet Society, and it's called Collaborative Security. So today's theme is security, and as we as society rely more and more on the internet, on communication, the vulnerabilities, they have more and more impact on our life, and therefore risks are increasing. Also, if we look at press and media, there is certain hype there. We have a lot of anecdotal evidence of bad things happening. There is also pressure on policymakers to do something in the area of security and cybersecurity. So let's try to dissect the issue and look at some boundary conditions for the solution space. First, since we're talking about the internet, let's reflect a bit on what the internet is. We usually think of the internet as a complex network of networks, each operated by an autonomous operator, whereby the services are only loosely coupled to the offered transport networks that offers a best service, while application providers provide their applications. It's a complex, self-evolving ecosystem with one common denominator, that is IP, Internet Protocol, a waste of this hourglass. Another observation is while the internet is based on the technologies developed by engineers, it's very difficult to engineer the internet as a whole. What I also need to say about the internet is that it is constantly changing, and it still remains the internet. So it's useful to understand what is actually important and unchanging about the internet, the invariants, as we call them, that have been true to date. So let me just mention some of them. One of them is global reach and integrity. Any endpoint on the internet can address any other endpoint, and the information received at one endpoint is as intended by the sender, wherever the receiver connects to the internet. It's a general purpose network. The internet is capable of supporting a wide range of demands for its use. It's not tailored for any specific applications. While some networks may be optimized for certain traffic, the technology doesn't place any inherent limitations on the applications and services that can be transported and used by the internet. Internet supports innovation without permission. Any person or organization can set up a new service that abides by the existing standards and best practices and make it available to the rest of the internet without requiring special permission. It's accessible. Well, in fact, anyone can get on the internet. It's not just to consume content from others, but also contribute. So in fact, many of the users of the internet are in fact contributors, participants. It is based on interoperability and mutual agreement. The key to enabling internet working are open standards for the technologies, mutual agreements between operators of autonomous pieces of the internet. It's based on collaboration. The best solutions to the new issues that arise stem from willing collaboration between stakeholders. And important to say that there are no permanent favorites. While some technologies, companies, and regions have flourished, their continued success depends on continued relevance and utility, not strictly some favored status. So those are called invariants, and I think they're very important when we talk about security, understanding what they are. Because looking at those invariants through the security perspective lets us better understand the challenge and complexity of the issues. The very same invariants that support the development of the internet, bring social economic growth, can be abused for criminal benefit. So if solutions, policy measures, or technical approaches are only focusing on the left side, on the right side, I apologize, on stopping bad things, and not on protecting what is valued, the cure may be worse than the disease. Well, let me develop even more on the challenging side of the problem. The internet, with its high degree of interconnection and dependencies, brings another dimension to the management of risks. Security and resilience of the internet depends not only on how well risks to you and your own assets are managed, but also importantly, on the management of risks that you, by your action or inaction, present to the internet ecosystem, so-called the upward risk. Additionally, some risks need to be managed by more than one actor. So that brings the notion of collective and shared risk management, a notion that is well aligned with the public interest of the internet. Traditional approaches to security were principally concerned with external and internal threats and the impact they may have on one's own assets. Well, in other words, they are based on threat-based and self-interest. But the concept of shared risk management requires collaboration, cooperation, and reciprocity. Security measure for some most pressing security issues for the internet infrastructure like DDoS attacks, routing vulnerabilities, or secure connection do not bring significant benefit to those who deploy them. Another way to look at this is that protection of one's own assets is in the hands of others, other participants. When talking about all bad things, what happened to the internet and in the internet, we shouldn't forget about all the benefits it brings at the same time. There is a growing recognition that the security paradigm for the internet ecosystem should be premised on protecting opportunities for economic and social prosperity, as opposed to a model that is based simply on preventing perceived harm. Security solutions need to be flexible enough to evolve over time. We know that technology is going to change and threats will adapt to take advantage of new platforms and protocols. Therefore, solutions need to be responsive to those new challenges. Like a human body that may suffer from viruses, but gets stronger and more resilient as a result. New technology solutions and cooperative efforts that build on lessons learned make the internet more resilient to threats. Partial solutions and staged deployment are important and should be taken seriously. A collection of incremental solutions may be more effective in practice than a grand design. Also, experience shows us that in a quickly evolving system, such as the internet, an open, consensus-based participatory approach is the most robust, flexible, and agile. Security is not achieved by a single treaty or piece of legislation. It's not solved by a single technology fix, nor can it come about because one company, government, or actor decides security is important. Creating security and trust in the internet requires different players to take action closest to where the issues are occurring. Typically, for greater effectiveness and efficacy, solutions should be defined and implemented by the smallest, lowest, or least centralized competent community at the point in the system where they can have the most impact. So let's bring this all together. All things that we just discussed, they constitute the 5 principles for collaborative security. Let me briefly go over them. Fostering confidence and protecting opportunities. The objective of security is to foster confidence in the internet and to ensure the continued success of the internet as a driver for economic and social innovation. Collective responsibility. Internet participants share responsibility towards the system as a whole. Fundamental properties and values. Security solutions should be compatible with fundamental human rights and preserve the fundamental properties of the internet invariance I just mentioned. Evolution and consensus. Effective security relies on agile evolutionary steps based on the experience of a broad set of stakeholders. And finally, last but not least, think globally, act locally. It is through voluntary bottom-up self-organization that the most impactful solutions are likely to be reached. So, well, you may say, hey, that's a nice talk, but how does this all look in practice? Well, let me offer you one example, and that example comes from the area of routing security. Those of you who are technical probably know about vulnerabilities of the global routing system. Global routing system, as it exists today, it allows lie. So you can lie about the networks you can reach through your network, and that can cause some bad things like prefix hijack, that is a source of denial of service, impersonating a network or service, and traffic intercept. It can lead to so-called route leaks, where traffic can be intercepted and also may result in denial of service. Or if we look broader, source IP address spoofing is the root cause of massive volumetric denial of service attacks. So what unites all this problem is that one cannot protect their own network from all this stuff happening. To say it another way, the security of one's own network in the routing space is in the hands of other networks. So how can we solve that problem? Applying, again, the principles of collaborative security, we build a new initiative which is called Mutually Agreed Norms for Routing Security. When I say we, that's not Internet Society per se. That's a group of network operators, the leaders of the industry that got together and said, hey, how can we solve that problem that doesn't seem to have an easy solution? So because of this reciprocity, because your security is in other hands, it's very important to build a visible community of security-minded operators. Because we need to build the culture, it's very important to know who joined that club, that community, who cares about security, who takes those actions that we adhere to. And another one, a very important component of this initiative is that the industry should have a line between good and bad. We should know what is good and what is bad. And we need to define concrete actions that network operators should implement. This initiative, by the way, defines 4 actions, very simple one, and I'll show them to you. They sort of produce a technology-neutral baseline for global adoption. So here you can see the 4 actions, as we call them in manners, which define this baseline. They are not specifically new, and many operators implement those. They're defined, and if you look at the document itself, they're tailored to low cost and low risk. So they are relatively easy to implement. Yet some network operators still not implementing them, which is not a good thing. And yet, if many of the network implement this simple baseline, we'll see a very significant improvement in the stability and security of the global routing system. I will not go over those actions. I will show you the URL at the end, and you can have a look at this document. And maybe for those who are network operators in the room, you can also consider joining this initiative if you take security seriously. But what motivates people to join this initiative? there is no clear business case. It's not like by joining this initiative, your network becomes more secure. But I think there is no alternative. By not doing something, I think the whole security of the routing system can just deteriorate. Because routing security is a sum of all contributions. Because we need a way to demonstrate the new baseline. And because if we build a big enough community behind the menace, it has gravity that can attract others. So again, for those of you who are network operators, please consider if you want to join this initiative and check those boxes for actions you implement. So this is my slide of this example. This is the URL, and I'm sure the slides will be available so you can look up the URL and read this document. But this is just one example where communities are built, where collective and shared responsibility plays its role to solving very important and challenging security issues of the internet. And collaborative security happens in many places, right? Perhaps not even consciously. Anywhere where people get together and work towards improving trust of the internet. And this is just some of the post-its I put on this slide, and there is no claim for completeness. But just look at some of those organizations that work and contribute to collaborative security. Regional registries, maintain the registries of number resources. Regional operators implement best current practices and collaborate. Industry organizations like MARC and FIRST are coordinating security incidents. Programmers, they try to do the right thing by sharing code, reviewing other people's code. Academic conferences that work on improving security. That is just to name few. So it's really collective effort, and the internet as a global medium offers us this opportunity. I think that comes to the end of my presentation. I'm open to questions, or I don't know if questions come at the end, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrei. I skip one the question. Is we have always two shots. If you want to make the question, get by the shot in the Zoom platform.
I really apologize if it was a question. I couldn't hear this. It's very. I cannot hear well what is happening in the room, unfortunately. I wonder if someone can type this in the chat room, then it would be easier for me to answer that question.
Okay, I will. You can explain the question in the chat. Is there? You can make a question directly on the response. Any question? Okay, thank you very much. Just in the chat, et on comprend. Il écoute pas très bien. Oui, merci. Can I see it?
Yes, thank you. That's a very good question. What are the requirements? What should I be learning in order to contribute to the security, the improvement of security? Well, in the internet, because of this high level of interdependencies. Whatever we do locally is very important and have global impact. So I think what is important that we look at our side of the street and we clean up our side of the street. What is also important that we realize that others do the same, right? There are plenty of best current practices that you can do. There are good documents developed by the internet and network operators forums, by security forums like FIRST and CERT. So there is plenty of stuff to learn and see how that applies to your particular environment. It also depends on who you are, right? If you're a network operator, I think you should look at best practices, how to protect security. Now, here's a very important thing, is that in the internet, you should not only look at how to protect your network, but also look that your network doesn't cause harm to other networks, to other participants. Let me give you one example. I mentioned source IP address spoofing, and that's ability to pretend that traffic doesn't come from your network, but comes from another network, while in fact it is originated in your network. If you do not prevent some of your customers of your network doing spoofing, it doesn't hurt you specifically, but it creates pollution in the internet, and you become a launchpad of DDoS attacks. Now, if you do prevent this, I think you create a cleaner environment, a cleaner global environment. So it's back to the principle, think globally, act locally.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Andrei. I think we are late on our agenda. We can send you other questions in the mail address and in the Zoom in the last of this day. Thank you very much, Andrei.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.